It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Absolutely, and great to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show. Thank you for that introduction, Chad Erickson, the voice of Sports Wrap. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes, including Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, joins us every Friday on the show. Talk about some of the top stories of the week. Tino Pattigno will be here, ladies and gentlemen, our friend from SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and Tubi. And NASCAR is here in Las Vegas this weekend. I was hoping it was going to be on the screen behind me there on the little scrolling board, but it's not there yet. South Point 400, we'll preview that as the NASCAR postseason continues. They're down to 8 drivers. Look forward to talking about that. Page versus the Prince, our 4-pack of NFL picks. We have that to recap from last week and give you what we got this week. But we start things out in the NFL. And Sam Yarnell, we all had a laugh at the Giants' expense yesterday on this show. At least I did, because I just couldn't pick against the Giants, being a Giants fan, if you look above me and see the helmet. Couldn't pick against the Giants. But I couldn't very well pick the Giants, even as a 7.5-point home dog. And everybody knows how I feel about home dogs. Even with Jaxson Dart and some of the signs that he's shown, I couldn't take the Giants. I just couldn't do it. But I did say at the very end, don't tail me, but take the over. That was the pick that I threw out there. Well, not only did the over hit, but the Giants hit. And they hit the Eagles in the mouth over and over again in this game, Sam, to the tune of 34-17. And I'm still trying to figure out what the hell we watched last night, because I am as perplexed as anybody as to how the Giants just manhandled the Eagles for 4 quarters last night.
I've been trying to tell you, man, this Giants team, they got something to them. It was awesome to watch last night. Like, everything that could have gone right for the Giants went right last night. The front 7 looked insane. You shut out the defending Super Bowl champs for the entire second half of that football game. And the offense was humming and ticking every which way. No Malik Neighbors, no problem. We got Wan'Dale Robinson. Who? And oh, by the way, that Jalen Hyatt should have been a touchdown there at the end. I don't know how that ball wasn't caught, but I mean, It was just beyond impressive to see how this Giants team has stepped up in the absence of their best offensive weapon. I'm not going to come out here now and say that this is a world-beating team that's going to come out and make the playoffs this year. They're 2-4. They have a great win, but they're 2-4. That said, for next year's New York Giants, this was an incredibly promising game. The Giants are very close to being back, Jason Page.
It's crazy because 3 weeks ago, it was how bad New York football is, the combination of the Jets and the Giants. And obviously the Jets still suck. But the Giants, I mean, doing what they did yesterday, and you mentioned Jaxson Dart. He was dropping some. There were a few balls he threw in this game that were dropped by receivers that were right on target. And I was listening to Kirk Herbstreit doing the game. He's kind of grown on me, by the way. He has. I was never really crazy about the idea of him jumping over and doing the NFL, but I think he's done really well with it. But listening to how amazed he was, with some of the throws and hearing it from somebody like that. And it's not like, Chris Collinsworth drooling over Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. It was Kirk Herbstreit knowing about this young quarterback that he saw obviously in the collegiate ranks and true excitement from him as to some of the plays he was making. And Cam Scatterbo, man, running with a vengeance. I mean, that guy just don't care. He's throwing his body around. You know what he reminds me of? You ever see the latest version of that movie, The Longest Yard? Or no, not The Longest Yard. The one with Gene Hackman, The Replacements, the football movie. Oh. He reminds me of the crazy guy in that movie. He's just going to run through people. He just don't care. He's just going to run over everybody. And I don't know if that spells for a long career when you run with that kind of reckless abandon. But man alive. But take it away from the Giants for a second, because the big takeaway here is something's wrong in Philadelphia. And I'll give you credit because you've spotted it from the start, sort of what's going on with this Eagles team. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. It feels like there's no offensive cohesion here in terms of what this team is doing. I wonder how much of this is a combination of Super Bowl hangover, how much of this is a combination of, guys not feeling valued. I'm talking about you, A.J. Brown. The defense is keying in and saying, we're going to take Saquon Barkley away and make you beat us another way. I'm trying to figure out, I can't put my finger on any one thing, but I see a bunch of little things that when you put them all together on the Eagles spells trouble, Sam.
Yeah, it's 2023 all over again, Jason Page. If you'll remember the cycle that we're in with the Eagles, right? 2022, they go to the Super Bowl, lose to Mahomes. Then they lose Kellen Moore, Jonathan Gannon to head coaching positions, replace them in-house, come back in 2023, start out 9-0 or 10-0, and then fall apart, fall out of the wild card round or the divisional round of the playoffs, complete letdown of a season. And then in 2024, they come back, obviously, and go back to the Super Bowl with a revamped coaching staff. Now, I think that with Kellen Moore's departure and obviously the new Kevin Patullo entrance or resurgence, I guess, because he was just promoted from within, it clearly hasn't transcended with Jalen Hurts in that entire offense. And you're talking about Jalen Hurts, a guy who in 8 seasons has had 7 offensive coordinators. I want to say those are the numbers. The guy goes through offensive coordinators like nobody's business, and that has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that the Eagles are so successful and everybody wants to hire their coaches. However, this is the rut that you'll find yourself in. Eventually, that offense is going to reel from having so many different voices in its ear. It doesn't help that Saquon Barkley has very clearly not come back all the way from the copious amounts of work that he was used for last season. I think that it's kind of just a perfect storm of a couple of things for the Philadelphia Eagles right now, Jason, but it really, really feels reminiscent of 2023 just 6 weeks earlier.
The other thing is, the NFL season is so long now, with 17 games. And there are going to be these peaks and valleys. I don't want to compare it to baseball in that, you've got teams that get off to hot starts, lag in the middle, and then figure it out by the end. I still feel like Philadelphia is one of those teams that gets it figured out by the time we get to, December. That we're going to be looking back on this and go, oh my God, they got destroyed by the Giants. They lost at home to the Broncos. And the Broncos are a good team. But I have a feeling by the time we get to later in the season, they're going to figure this out. This is a team that won a Super Bowl last year. You don't do that by accident. They're going to get this figured out. Speaking of getting it figured out, we're going to try and figure out the baseball. Postseason recap, we're talking next. All right, Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder, joins us coming up in 10 minutes. Talk about the top stories of the week with him. Curious to get his thoughts on a couple of college football items that we've discussed throughout the week. Bit of a different perspective. Sam Yarnell, switch gears, talk some baseball. I don't know if you're going to see a more heartbreaking way to lose in the postseason than we saw last night for the Phillies, who were on the precipice of pushing this thing back to Philadelphia for Game 5, Sam. For people who didn't see it, here it is. You can watch it on the screen as we sit here and talk about it. Orion Kirkland, say his name. Say his last name.
Orion Kirkering?
Kirkering, thank you. I had a Mad Dog moment there. Orion Kirkering throwing the ball away. And look, I mean, the Dodgers win a game that, they struggled to obviously get some offense. But they figure out a way to push this thing, and you put the ball in play if you're Pajas and you're moving on here. But boy, I don't know if there's a soul alive that doesn't feel, no matter who you're a fan of and who you're not a fan of and what you think of Philadelphia fans or blah, blah, blah. Orion Kirkering, man, we're thinking of you today, buddy. Just gutted.
I don't know. This is how gutting it is. I almost texted David Ardsma just to see if he had ever had a moment in his career like that. And I was like, No, like you can't do this right now. It's too raw of an emotional moment for anybody. Like you don't have to be a Phillies fan.
No,
it's too. I hate the Phillies. I grew up hating the Phillies, and that was a raw moment for me. I mean, I think the most heartbreaking part of it all is anybody who's played baseball at any semblance of a high level understands exactly what happened, right? Orion Kerkering comes into a situation with the bases loaded and the winning run on third base, 90 feet from the plate. He comes in with 2 outs. He obviously forgot that there were 2 outs. He's used to coming into, a no-out inning, especially if the bases are loaded. And you see what literally happens in his head as it happens. It's like, I screamed at my TV, what are you doing? Because it's so understandable. And I think that is why it's so heartbreaking. That's why any of this kind of thing is so heartbreaking, because it's so relatable and anyone can understand exactly what happened in the guy's mind. But Jason...
I'll tell you,
you just don't see something like that to end a series, to end a season.
What's amazing is these guys are robots in this way, that they have, in spring training, you go through and you do pitchers, fielding drills and all of this stuff.
PFPs.
And from the time you're a kid, you're taught about how to handle these situations, and you just do it on autopilot, sort of. And it just goes to show how the moment can dictate, the rewiring of your brain, or the disconnect in your brain in that moment for Orion Kerkering, that everything everything that's automatic just completely disappears. And that's what happened to him last night. And like I said, you're gutted for this young man who now has to go through the off season sort of living with this. And you hope he really gets the support. You saw it in the immediate aftermath of the game. You really hope he gets the support, of his teammates and the organization, because that's a tough one to come back from. I'm sitting here watching it again, and and then you got Kim missing home plate, which is also, missing home plate and having to go back and touch home. I'll tell you, the Dodgers are not inevitable, Sam. The Dodgers are not inevitable. That's the one big takeaway I come away with from this thing, is the Dodgers are not inevitable. I
don't know, man. The one team I gave a shot to beat them just lost to them. While I understand that thought process coming out of this game, I think they've never been more inevitable. They just got through Goliath. They just got not Goliath. They are Goliath. They just got through their biggest threat. They just got through the one team that could hang with them. It's like every other team has to play their best game just to stay competitive.
Well, we move from the Phillies and Dodgers to the Brewers and Cubs. And I said yesterday on this show, if you're the Brewers, do not let this get to a Game 5, Sam. And lo and behold, we're going to have a Game 5 in Milwaukee after the Brewers offense just basically went dormant here over the last couple of games. And, the Cubs have woken up a bit, and now you're going to get a Game 5. And we don't know who the starting pitchers are going to be as of yet for that Game 5 on Saturday, which will obviously dictate a lot of, sort of how we feel about this game. But, man alive, I mean, the Brewers just brewing yet again. Setting their fans up for a heartache this weekend, Sam.
I know that Freddie Peralta was very clearly dealing with the Wrigley crowd and the adverse circumstances, and that was definitely, the Freddie chants definitely got in his head a little bit. But I'll tell you, man, when you see that happening on a baseball field as an offense, you got to pick up your pitcher. And 3 hits in an entire game does anything but do that. It's tough to justify the Brewers coming back in this series. I'm not going to write it off because, again, it's Craig Counsell in the division series. The guy historically has not been able to manage his way out of a box. That said, these last 2 games have been different. He's been managing much more offensively and making Pat Murphy kind of adapt to the decisions that Counsell makes. That's something he never did in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That's something that could change his postseason managing style, Jason. Yeah. I'm giving the Cubs a solid chance to win Game 5 on Saturday.
I am too, but this is why you play 162 and run through the finish line, is to have Game 5 on your home field. And the Brewers having Game 5 in their ballpark, which will be a very lively scene. It'll be a tense scene. That fan base, which was so celebratory by the time we got to the end of Game 2, is not going to be that way in Game 5. They're going to be on edge as long as this thing is close, with all those thoughts running through their minds of, oh God, is it about to happen again? Or, oh bleep, is it about to happen again? More appropriately, is this team going to cough it away? That's going to be fun to watch on Saturday. That's going to be must-see TV. Scooble versus Kirby tonight. What's your prediction, Sam?
Under. I don't care how low the number is. That game's finishing 1-0.
5.5. I said you could probably make it 4.5 and take the under. Alt it down. You think who wins?
I'll take the Mariners.
Yeah. It's a coin flip.
Yeah.
Sam returns later. Robert Littal next. All right, we keep things moving on this Friday edition of the show. And if it's a Friday, it means two things. One, Tino Pattigno will join us in 20 minutes to talk NASCAR with the South Point 400 here in Las Vegas. I will be attending that on Sunday. And it also means we're talking to this guy, the one and only Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us every Friday on the show. Get his thoughts on a whole host of issues from around the week, some that we talk about, some that we don't have time to talk about. I want to get your thoughts on the college football, because you love the college football. I'm of the mindset that I don't know how James Franklin survives at Penn State at this point, past the end of the season. I mean, they have a weak schedule as it is. Then you lose at UCLA. You get beaten at home in the whiteout by Oregon. I know this is a school that is, loathes the idea of change. Given what took place obviously before him and how long Joe Paterno was there, but you've got to wonder if the patience there has sort of run out with the inability to win big games and beat big-time opponents here at Penn State, Robert.
Yeah, there's a loyalty to James Franklin, because if you're not, old enough to remember all the things that have happened at Penn State before he got there, it was not a position that a lot of people wanted to be in. It was not something that coaches were screaming to go to, even though it's an institution that has a great history. The situations they were in, it took someone like James Franklin to clean that up. And, for the past decade, regardless of what his record has been, they've been a institution that you wouldn't mind sending your kid to, which is something you couldn't say maybe 10, 15 years ago. But like you said, how long of a rope does that give you? I think he has Ohio State and he has Indiana coming up here. He has to beat one of them. I think if he beats one of them, I think if he loses to Ohio State, people are going to be like, well, they lost to UCLA. It's Ohio State. They're a juggernaut. If he loses to Indiana, I think that may be the straw that broke the camel's back. And they may come up with a mutual, buyout, because he looks a little tired of being
really
there.
You think in season you think in
Yeah.
season they would make a change? See, I find
no, not in. I mean after the year.
Okay.
After the year, but I think that's something that I think after the year, I think they both maybe could use a fresh start. He's a good coach. He just has trouble winning he reminds me of John Cooper. I don't know if you remember the old Ohio State coach, right? Yeah, doing the Eddie George, years. Right, every year would win 9 or 10 games, but lose to Michigan or lose to somebody every year. Just couldn't get over the hump. And sometimes when that happens, it's in your head, and you just need to get a fresh start somewhere.
I'll give you another one, David Shaw. Another guy that couldn't win the big one. I'll look at a guy like, he kind of reminds me a bit of David Shaw when he was at Stanford. And remember, David Shaw was a guy everybody talked about NFL. I think he's now an assistant with the Lions or something like that. Yeah. But, everybody talked about that, and he didn't jump for those jobs. And then he rode it until the wheels fell off eventually at Stanford, and now he's just an assistant in the NFL. And no shame in that, but there were a lot of other things that could have obviously transpired for him in his career had things gone differently or he had made different decisions. I want to get your thoughts on Bill Belichick because I look, when you start getting the smoke, there is ultimately going to be the fire. And the smoke this week was this idea that he was going, that they were talking about a potential lessening of the buyout, trying to figure out an exit strategy here. And then all of a sudden, at the end of all of that, at the end of the night, you get or the next morning, you get, hey, we support him. He's Bubba Cunningham saying, we want him here. Bill Belichick putting out a statement saying, I want to be here. Where do you think the truth lies in this?
Well,
Robert?
I think what really happened was Bill Belichick wanted to coach in the NFL, and the NFL was like, we're good. And being the mindset of Bill Belichick, he was like, well, I'll show you. I go to North Carolina and show them how great I am, and then they take me back. And not realizing how you've been coaching the NFL for 30 years, 40 years. It's a totally different monster. In college, this is not and he's never really coached in college. If he did, it was so long ago. Such a different landscape, and he's there, and I think he doesn't seem happy. I mean, he doesn't seem joyful. He seemed like he made maybe a decision, a rash decision, and now is regretting it. But when you're getting paid $10-15 million a year, you can't just walk away from that. I think they're saying it's in the middle of the season, so I think they're saying the right things now because there's recruits and other people that are probably paying attention and everything. I would not. I don't know if this goes to a year or two. I really don't. Yeah. I really don't think it goes to a year or two.
I don't think it goes to a year or two either. And who I feel for the most are the players. And I know that there's NIL now and players get paid, so they're not those poor kids that are playing college football. You don't feel the same sort of sympathy or empathy, but at the same time, there's a lot of kids that decided to go there based on the idea that Bill Belichick was there. Maybe some that transferred there that said they were going to go there. And now you're staring at, a situation with complete uncertainty. You've got a defensive assistant speaking off the record saying, or speaking on the record anonymously saying how big of a mess it is. And, to me, it all points back to Bubba Cunningham and the administration because you had to look and see. Nobody in the NFL wanted the coach that other than Don Shula has won more games than any head coach. Nobody wanted to hire that guy to be a head coach in the NFL. With all those rings, with all that success, doesn't that put off a big red flashing light in your head if you're Bubba Cunningham?
But I understand.
But we all saw it. But wait a second. We all saw it. Yeah. And we're not even intimately involved. And so many of us,
it's North Carolina, and they thought, this is a basketball school, basically. And they thought, listen, how many times are we going to get to hire, possibly the greatest coach, of all time? I get the gamble. I understand the gamble. And I mean, I think maybe we all should have known that it was going to take, if he was going to do it, it was going to. The problem is, for something like this, it's going to take 4 or 5 years, right? And he's 73, going on 74 years old. Yeah. And he just doesn't have the time for a makeover, meaning that if he was going to go into college football, he needed to wait for James Franklin to be fired and go to Penn State.
How much does this tarnish his legacy in the last 30 seconds of this segment?
In the short term, yes. I think in the long term, no. I think this
I agree.
is, think about Tom Landry. We don't remember the end.
Yeah, that's true. I said the same thing yesterday.
Chuck, we don't remember the end. We just remember Don Shula.
But I'm telling you, it's felt like a horror movie to me where you're like, no, don't open that door. The axe murderer is behind it. And North Carolina was like, we're opening the door. Ah! I mean, that's essentially what it's looked like to me. That's going to become a meme somewhere. Oh, well. That's going to wrap it up for this segment. Robert's back for one more segment, though. I got more I want to talk about with him on this Friday edition of Sports Wrap. All right, we continue on this Friday with Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, who hangs out with us every Friday on the show. Did you watch we did it in the second segment of the show today. Did you watch the Dodgers-Phillies debacle?
I did.
Man, there aren't many more heartbreaking ways to lose a game than the Phillies lost that game.
I don't think people understand sometimes the type of mental stress athletes are on in these type of games. You can literally see his brain freezing. I mean, you just saw it. I mean, yeah. As soon as he did not catch it cleanly, it just locked up. He didn't know what to do. And then when he did it, he realized immediately his brain unfroze. Like, oh no! But then it's too late, and you don't play 100 and almost 70 games, and that's it. That's a tough. I hope he's okay. And I don't have no dog in the race and everything. And I it doesn't. This could have been a team that I didn't even like. I would have, if you don't feel for something like that, I don't know if you're human, because I felt awful and then the picture where the Dodgers are like running past him to get to Pajas, and he's just standing there, and they're just kind of clipping him a little bit on the shoulders. I still feel awful, and I hope he has good people around him. What I said today to let him know, hey man, this is just a game. I understand it's people are crazy, and it's just baseball, man, and it's, I know that probably doesn't help, but that's the way I would try to explain it.
You're a good human, because you and I are of the same mindset, because what I said at the end of the second segment, and you didn't even see it, so it's just so funny, because that was my overarching theme from it was, man, I just hope he's got good people around him, because that could break a lesser man. That could really do it. Especially you're a reliever. I mean, which is a tenuous existence as it is. I mean, we were just talking about, what was the story yesterday about the kid from the Bears who says he still hasn't been able to come back from the whole debacle against the Commanders, the Hail Mary. Yeah, that whole thing, the Hail Mary. And how that's impacted his life and his career, and you think of Orion Kerkering in that way, and you're just like, man, I hope he can get past it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that real quick. But back to the NFL for a second. So Week 6 is underway. We saw what happened last night with the Giants and Eagles. I wanted to get your thoughts, though, on the MVP stuff, because there's a lot of politicking going on right now for Dak Prescott. But to me, Dak Prescott as an MVP candidate feels like Joe Burrow last year as an MVP candidate, in that he's not on a good football team. He's on a team that might be a 500 team, that might be able to scrape its way into a wild card spot, but otherwise is just sort of also run-of-the-mill team. Baker Mayfield's name is obviously in the mix. Josh Allen will obviously be part of the conversation. Daniel Jones should be part of the conversation. If I were to say, where are you going a third of the way through the season on the MVP conversation, where is it?
You got them all wrong. It's Jonathan Taylor. That's who the MVP is. You think Daniel Jones would be out there slinging it the way he is?
Can I tell you what's funny? Can I tell you what's funny about you? Can I tell you what's funny about you mentioning Jonathan Taylor? You know who else came on this very show? And you didn't see this because I didn't put the clip out online. Nick Ferguson said the same thing. Yeah, he said the same thing as you. He said Jonathan Taylor. They're not giving it to a running back, though. We know this. If they didn't give it to Saquon last year, they're not giving it to Jonathan Taylor.
It's not to take away from Daniel Jones, who has been surprisingly good. I admit that, right? But we've seen this story with Daniel Jones before. You give him a decent defense, a really good running back, a decent coach, and he can function in a way that you make him seem like, an MVP type of play. But Jonathan, he's just out there, just getting touchdowns, he's catching passes, he's doing everything that an MVP, would do. But like you said, it's kind of a quarterbacky award now. But I don't go with the mainstream. I feel like right now, to me, he's the MVP, and then, followed probably by, Baker Mayfield. I just love the way Baker Mayfield is playing. Going to Tampa was the best thing, that ever happened, to him. And I like the way that Baker Mayfield said, I'm the same Baker Mayfield I've always been, but I win now. So now they say different things about me. And I'm like, somebody told me a long time ago, if you're a winner, you never have to change.
Yeah, it's true. You think Joe Flacco has any chance of succeeding in Cincinnati?
No, but it'd be fun. He's old. Like, it's not that Joe Flacco is a bad quarterback. He's 75 years old. Like that. It just
I'm
is
a
not
Flacco guy. This is heartbreaking for me.
He was throwing a lot of interceptions with the Browns. Granted, they have the Bengals.
He's got weapons though, and those weapons are going to enhance him. The offensive line stinks, and he's going to get run over a few times. But
right, if Burrow and Browning couldn't stay upright, what makes you think an 82-year-old man is going to be able?
He went from 75 to 82 in the course of this conversation.
No running game. The defense is better, but still not great. I think it'll be interesting for a couple of games, but this is just I don't know why they didn't go get Jameis Winston.
Yeah, that to me made more sense because he's more mobile. He can get around. He can.
And plus it's more fun. Let's just be honest.
In the last 45 seconds, can anything fix the Raiders at this point? I was actually optimistic about them when they went and got Geno and the old coach Pete Carroll. Sorry, my brain was blanking there for a second as I was thinking about Jameis Winston. But Pete Carroll and Geno, can anything fix this organization at this point?
It makes me sad, and because they've been bad for such a long time, and I'm a big Raiders fan from the old school. I feel like with any team that has been bad for that long, they need to luck up on a quarterback. They have not had a good quarterback in 2 decades, probably since Rich Gannon, and I don't count Derek Carr because he was there, but he didn't even win a playoff game in 10 years. They have to luck. You have to luck into a Tom Brady. You have to luck into a Patrick Mahomes. You have to pick the right guy. Yeah. That seems to be the number one thing that turns teams around quickly.
Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online. I always enjoy these conversations. We'll see you back here next week, my friend.
All right, OHIO, I'll finish it up for you.
Coming back. All right, Page versus the Prince wraps it up in 10 minutes. A 4-pack of NFL picks from myself and Sam Yarnell. We got the paper bag set aside for Sam Yarnell to put on his head. He went 1-3 last week in his picks. Yikes. I had one of those early in the season, though. It happens. We've been pretty consistent in general, so we'll have those picks coming up. But if it's a Friday on SportsWrap, it can only mean one thing. This guy is here, Tino Pattigno. SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You can catch his betting insights there as well as on Tubi. And he hangs out with us on this Friday edition of the show for a NASCAR race that is right in our backyard here in Las Vegas, where I reside, where we do the show from. The South Point 400, the latest playoff race with the field down to 8 drivers. And curious to get your thoughts before we get to the South Point 400 and everything that's involved with that and who we like this week. I want to get your thoughts on sort of where we are after last week's race, with SVG winning as we all thought was probably going to happen because he is the road course warrior. Sort of your impressions on what we saw last week and how it portends for this week.
Well, I think in terms of the drivers, right, being in the round of 8, Joey Logano advancing again, looking at SVG himself, right, taking that away, because I think he needs to be highlighted as what's going to be the greatest NASCAR road course driver of all time. Yeah. He may already be that. I'll wait until he has 10 wins, which will be the most all-time, passing Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, to solidify that. But the ways in which he's winning those road courses are just dominant. And you look at a fact like this: Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, 2, pretty above average road course drivers. They both have wins on road courses in the same equipment as SVG, and he's still winning by 15 plus seconds. I think that's one thing where many people may not recognize is, yes, obviously he has the experience level and the pedigree that's way better than these NASCAR drivers, but the equipment that he's in, it's not like it's Joe Gibbs Racing or Hendrick Motorsports. It's a mid-tier pack, a little above average, and he's still going out and getting it done. That to me is the biggest thing. But the round of 8 is crucial now here because Ross Chastain, we go into Vegas, Ross Chastain does not advance, and it could have been a track where he has the best average finishes amongst all NASCAR drivers. Doesn't matter if he wins this race, he can't move on to the championship 4, but Joey Logano can, as he won here last year and did just that.
I gotta say, it's fascinating. We have the highlights up of the race last week, and watching Van Gisbergen and Larson just banging each other and going at it around this course was a lot of fun. And it really does speak to, as much as the SVG, one trick pony on the road course thing drives me nuts, it is fun to watch. Larson, who is arguably the greatest driver in the world when you talk about all disciplines and being able to do what he does. And even Shane Van Gisbergen being able to outduel him.
Yeah. Oh,
really
and the biggest thing is he's able to save his tires too. Like he's learning that. I was getting a little. I mean, I bet SVG, told everyone bet SVG at plus money, and that may be one of the last times we see him at plus money at a road course ever, right? And then to see, oh man, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, they get ahead, and then 10 laps to go, he just turns it on and passes them easily. It was cool to see a little bit of a battle, like you said, and I think too he is going to continue to get better on the ovals.
I hope so.
He got a top 10, at Kansas, and I think that, circumstantial or not, I think that's going to be key to see it. So both of those disciplines sort of merge.
All right, in the final 2.5 minutes here, Kyle Larson is your favorite right now at plus 470. Christopher Bell at 5-1. Denny Hamlin 6-1. Ryan Blaney 8-1. William Byron 9-1. Joey Logano all the way down at 11-1. He won this race last year. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for Joey Logano to get into the championship 4. I'd keep an eye on Kyle Larson. Like you mentioned, he is the favorite. Won here 2 of the last 4 races, specifically coming in the 23 to 24 time period there. But one driver that has my bet this weekend is Ryan Blaney. This may not be his best track overall when we look at the 1.5 miles, but he's been winning at tracks that he hasn't been the best at this season. Nashville, for example, New Hampshire was one of them. Winning at New Hampshire, having 2 weeks to prepare for this track was absolutely huge for them. That's what Team Penske does. They already have an advantage at certain tracks that are flat, like New Hampshire and Phoenix. So to see them get an edge up on the opponent, I think is crucial here. We also saw him at Vegas when you and I were there in person. He wrecked in practice, came through the field later on in stage 3. He was right there in the mix. He has 126 laps led on 1.5 miles this season. That's third most. William Byron's ahead of him. Byron could be in the mix as well, but I think Blaney's the guy to beat this weekend.
Josh Berry won this race during the regular season, which was pretty cool to see. Is there a non-playoff driver that you would like to keep an eye on that you like this week?
Ross Chastain for sure, especially how he was holding himself accountable after the end of last weekend's race. Mental mistakes or just mistakes he made that prohibited him from gaining spots. It was on pit road, speeding, stuff like that, and he was beating himself up about it, rightfully so. So I expect to see an aggressive Chastain, not caring about the playoff picture, trying to win this to sort of right his wrongs. I'm not sure if he can, but a top 5 number for him, I know he's at plus 250 around there to do so. So I like the top 5 or top 10 out of Chastain here.
All right, in the final minute, give me some other potential possibilities for you when it comes to betting this race.
Well, I'd stay away from Denny Hamlin. And that's interesting to say, but this is the key for me, right? He's the guy that hasn't won a championship, needs to win a championship. That's what the storylines and narratives are all about. But this is the time where you win to get into the championship 4, and this is the time where he just doesn't win to do so. Talladega's next week. I don't see him doing that. Martinsville, I see Blaney or the Hendrick Motorsports guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Byron being strong. And it was funny, too, because not just Denny Hamlin, I think Christopher Bell advances to the championship 4 in some fashion, but Joe Gibbs swept the first round of the NASCAR playoffs, and now that we're in the last round, I don't see him being as dominant.
Ryan Blaney plus 430 right now to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship. Denny Hamlin at plus 450. Larson at plus 470. Real quick, if you were making a bet right now on the championship, who is it?
Ryan Blaney.
All right. We're coming back. Thank you, Tino. Always appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
Page versus the Prince next. Welcome back to the show. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for another week. Don't forget SportsWrap weekends on many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listings for time and schedule. It's the best of everything we discussed in a nice little 30-minute package every week on the program. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast. You can listen to this show 45 minutes commercial-free, Monday through Friday. In addition to that, we have the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Now look, I've been telling you about this every day. If you are not following us on the YouTube channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. The show is there Monday through Friday, commercial free. And we have SportsWrap Shorts, which is anytime news breaks or there's a big game or something's going on, we jump on with SportsWrap Shorts and give you the latest on it. They're quick. They're made for the ADD generation, also known as anybody under the age of 35. You will enjoy it, I promise you. Like, subscribe, follow. We appreciate it greatly. All right, it is week 6 in the NFL, Sam Yarnell, and on a Friday, that could only mean one thing.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for the weekly face-off for sports betting bragging rights. It's Paige versus the Prince on the Sports Wrap.
Generally works better when the graphic goes up while Chad is talking, but that's okay. Sam Yarnell, week 6 in the NFL. I have a paper bag over here with a couple of eyes cut out of it if you want it for that 1-3 last week. 2-2 for yours truly. Sam still has a 1-game lead on me at 13-7. I am 12-8. We will try to be better this week. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Sam, give me 4 winners.
The paper bag jokes are a little much when I'm not the one on this show who holds the 0-4 week so far this season.
No, it was
But
1-3.
anyway,
I did it after a 1-3 week. I don't think I had an 0-4 yet. That's all right.
Regardless, we've got a system on this show that I profess each and every week, and we're going back to the well. Broncos and Jets are playing overseas, and they set the number 43.5. Feels heavy. Give me the Lunder, 43.5 between the Broncos and the Jets. Browns, Steelers. Now, this game is just going to be a puke fest. You're telling me I'm going to rely on Dylan Gabriel to go into Pittsburgh and win with a Browns team that hasn't won in Pittsburgh since 2003? Yeah, no. Give me Browns Steelers under 38.5. Final score in this one screams 20-10. Next, Cowboys and Panthers. The puke special of the week. Nobody is going to be watching this game, and that's why a bazillion points are going to come in it. Give me over 49.5 in Cowboys, Carolina. And finally, hold your nose for this one. Give me the Jaguars -1.5 at home against the Seattle Seahawks, who have to travel across the country and then play in the 1 p.m. time slot. Listen, it's easy to fade West Coast teams playing at 1 p.m., but the Jaguars showed me something against the Chiefs. I don't care about the short week. Give me the Jaguars -1.5. Broncos, Jets, the Lunder 43.5. Browns, Steelers, hold your nose under 38.5. Cowboys, Panthers, don't watch it. It's going over 49.5. And then the Jaguars will win by 1.5 or more at home against the West Coast Seahawks.
All right, Sam Yarnell. I had to tail you on one because it's just too good, and that's Steelers-Browns under 38.5. 20-13, even 20-17. Could it be that close? Maybe.
You're giving them too much credit.
Maybe.
6-2. That's the final.
5. I mean, you're talking about the Steelers moving to 5-1 with a win this week. Oh no, 4-1. Sorry, they had the bye last week, so they'd be 4-1. Saints +3.5 at home against the Patriots. I like the Saints. They've covered every week. It feels like. If I'm wrong, correct me. They're cover machines. Patriots, you know, if Sunday night was their moment, you don't see a letdown potential here. Young team, turnover prone. Talking about you, Ramondre Stevenson. Give me the Saints +3.5. The Bengals +14.5. Look, we said it yesterday when we talked about Joe Flacco. I'm a sucker for those kinds of numbers. I think the Bengals put up points. I'll take the Bengals on the road plus the 14.5. Packers have kind of come back down to earth. Let's see, where else are we? Lions and Chiefs over 52.5. Gong show! I see it. Lots of points. Looking into my crystal ball, I see lots of points between the Lions and Chiefs. Give me the Steelers and Browns under 38.5. Saints +3.5 at home against the Patriots. The Bengals on the road +14.5 against the Pack. And the Lions and Chiefs over 52.5. Page
I'll tell you,
versus the Prince.
I was really thinking about taking the Bengals and the Saints this week. Those were both in contention to be on my card. I love those picks.
Good. That makes me feel all the better. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell, all week. We'll see you back here next weekend. Thanks to Robert Littal and Tino Pattigno. I'm Jason Page. That's Sports Wrap. Bye!